What's also fun to do, and I'm thinking about doing this when I reread this book in full again, is to spend some time on YouTube watching high-level Kendo competition to see how fast it is.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea of how much can transpire in the blink of an eye.
Is there a referee that calls it as a kill shot? How does it get scored and judged?
There are referees. So I had a chance to train in Kendo when I went back to Japan about 8 years ago, something like that, 8 or 10 years ago, and I trained at this place called Kyumei-kang, and I still have the armor, still have everything, and you have to, much like calling your shots in pool, you have to call your target a split second before you hit it or as you hit it. So you'd say like, men is head, do is abdomen, kote is the gauntlet or the arm, and then tsuki is a jab to the throat, which is pretty nasty. And you line up in such a way that the tip of the sword is basically pointing at your opponent's throat as you track them. Mm-hmm. And you can see, but there are referees in cases of any type of, there are definitely referees in cases of any dispute. They're very rarely disputes, but it's so subtle. And the misses are so close, much like really high level boxing. Mm-hmm. I mean, when someone parries, it's not like it's traveling a foot to the side of their head. It's just grazing the side of their head, and then they counterpunch. And you see it in Kendo, the movement's just faster. So it's really wild to see.
Do you get your bell rung when you get hit?
I expected, because I saw the armor, and the armor seems pretty hard, that you absolutely get your bell rung. Especially, I remember my first class, and I'm bigger than a lot of Japanese guys. Not all. I mean, there's certainly some big Japanese guys. And I was more heavily muscled, and they're like, oh, okay. And most of this has been my experience in Japanese schools, whether it's judo, jiu-jitsu, kendo, or otherwise. Spent some time way back in the day with the Pancras guys and so on before MMA really came to the U.S. Is generally speaking, everyone's pretty cool. I suppose this is true in the U.S. too. Then there are just one or two guys who are like, oh, foreigner in my school. Okay, I want to ring your bell. And there was one guy there who wanted to fight, and I was like, okay, because I figured like my reflexes are pretty good, but the reflexes of head movement in Kendo, bad idea. You always want to have the sword in between you and your opponent, and to protect the center line. So if you start moving your head or your shoulders in such a way that you might say evade a punch, you really expose yourself. So I ended up getting whacked, not just on the top of the head, but behind the armor, because your back is open and the back of your head is open. And so I ended up getting whacked like on the upper traps and neck with these shinai, these bamboo swords, which hurt. Those absolutely will ring your bell. So yeah, you feel it.
You're familiar with the Dog Brothers, right?
I am. Yeah.
They bring it.
They really bring it.
Yeah, they're awesome. I have nothing but respect for the Dog Brothers. If you don't know what they are, you can check them out on YouTube. But they do full contact simulated knife and stick, and I think it started with stick fighting.
Started with stick, yeah. Started with Eskrima, and then my understanding is they have the gathering. I was watching these videos at the same time I was watching the Gracie in Action videos. Yeah. And I remember like, people were just learning what a triangle choke was. It was like, ooh, I can choke people with my legs. That was a new thing. Yeah. And I remember seeing this video of, I think it was the gathering where you have Salty Dog and so on. And the participants who come just have to mutually agree on which weapons are acceptable. So you'd have like one guy with a garden hose, and then another guy with like a kendo sword with like the tip cut off, so it's splayed open. And then they would go at it. And I remember at this one point, I saw this guy pull guard. People are just going nuts. Some people have lacrosse helmets on. I mean, it's just bonkers. It's Mad Max. And these two guys are going at it, and one's clearly a wrestler. He takes the guy down and gets caught in a triangle. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's it. And he's like, no, that's not it. And the guy took his Eskrima stick and took the end of it and just shoved it right in between the guy's ass cheeks. Great way to break the triangle, turns out. And then just proceeded to beat the living shit out of him with a stick on the ground.
That's not fun. I don't like that triangle defense at all. Yeah. Don't like that at all.